because it's difficult to monitor.
It is difficult.
Yeah. Are we live?
Yeah, I think we are. Hold on. Good afternoon. Welcome to our first live stream of 2022.
Hello.
Whoop, whoop. We're just trying to remember how to do this.
Yeah, the muscle memory hasn't kicked in yet.
No, it's been a rough old holiday season, I have to say. But we're very appreciative of you all being here with us. Thank you, everyone who's said happy birthday as well. My birthday is actually technically tomorrow, but that's okay.
That's why I was so quiet. I didn't congratulate you.
No, you can save it all for tomorrow. That's
exactly.
Okay.
And then I'll forget.
Happy Christmas to Con as well.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Happy Orthodox Christmas
That's right.
people around the world.
Yeah, and I have to say a huge thank you to everyone who's already contributed to the Coffee Fund. We have Fred, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
And Yamin, thank you very, very much. And Jeremy and Terry, a slice of cake for Becky, he said, yes.
Nice.
And
thank
Ian, thank you so, so much for that. We're going to try and do a new thing where it will hopefully teach me not to miss people's Coffee Fund contributions.
Yes.
So before the end of every stream, I'm going to go back and look at all the Coffee Fund contributions. And if there are any questions, we're going to make sure any paid for questions are answered. So if you do have a question that you are dying to get answered and you're also contributing to the Coffee Fund, then you can put it in there and we'll check it before we finish.
So there won't be any paid questions unanswered then.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly. And thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
For your contribution to the Coffee Fund. Also, thank you, Michael, for my flowers, which arrived this morning, which are just there. I'm worried about getting you to pass that to me in case you knock something.
I generally spill things, so...
I'm like, But thank you so much. That was such a beautiful surprise this morning and a very nice bunch as well.
Is there water inside?
Yes. I'm not going to tip it on the old... on the desk. Really hugely appreciated. Amazing. I feel so spoiled. And thank you, Adrian, for your contribution as well.
Ooh, I want to thank Ian Woolard because I got my calendar, but I didn't see it till I came in on Tuesday this week. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And thank you to another Ian Misselbrook, also for a calendar. He sent me as a desk calendar as well, which I've got downstairs on the desk. So we will never forget what day of the year it is.
We should have a calendar in each room.
I think we pretty much do now, actually. We're doing quite well. So today we are going to be talking, apart from Birthday Cake Contribution Fund.
That's going to take the 90% of the whole show today.
We were going to do our sort of year in review part 2 for the podcast. Originally, we were going to film that from home kind of remotely and edit it together and stuff. But Christmas, for those of you that follow us on social and stuff, you'll know that Christmas was quite a tumultuous old time for myself and also for Con for different reasons. And we didn't get around to that. And we thought, well, you know what? We're going to have a break and we're going to do it a different way.
Sometimes it's nice to just recharge a little bit as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we thought, well, it's all kind of discussion points of our predictions of what's going to happen in the coming year, some Nikon rumors, news, our speculations. We want to talk about upcoming cameras. We want to talk about upcoming lenses. So we thought we'd just do it on a live stream instead.
That's true. And since it's conversational, it's good to hear from you as well. So whatever we discuss, we definitely would like to hear your comments in the live chat. So let's talk about predictions, new cameras, etc., etc. Tell us what you would hope to see this year from Nikon as well.
For sure. And I'm also going to try and copy some of the questions because some of you did actually post some questions earlier on and I do want to answer those. So I'm going to try and copy those so that we answer them in between things. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to lose them. And I just have to say thank you so much to everyone who's saying happy birthday because it's very nice. I feel very appreciated, which is great. Roy said it's the 8th in Australia already, so it's okay. So it's basically already my birthday.
It's your birthday. That's true.
Okay, so first up, there was a question that I thought would be quite a good one to answer, and I have to find it now. Gary was asking about the Nikon sales. Mm-hmm. So Gary said, hi from Wisconsin. Well, hello there. Question, number of Nikon sale items went off sale after the first of the year. Any information on upcoming Nikon sales? So we in the UK still have our winter savings.
That's true. That runs till 17th of January this year.
Yeah, so that's UK, and Europe usually get the same kind of offers. So we've got things like £180 off the D850 and some savings on the D780 and Z62, Z72. Like there's quite a lot of stuff that's on sale there. Normally those kind of big offers, they happen winter and summer. And I don't expect that we'll see much between now and the summer once those ones are finished. We might get a little spring.
That's true. They normally do some spring promotions, but that's normally more towards specific products like cameras or enhanced part exchange towards the new product. But it's not a big kind of promotion or anything like this. That's normally, yeah, summer and winter.
Yeah, exactly. So we will have to watch this space on the other promotions that might come along in springtime if they do anything, but otherwise that's the only ones that we've got here. I don't know what they're doing in the US. Maybe they had a shorter lived instant savings time period, or I think they started a little bit earlier, so maybe they finished a bit earlier, because that does happen.
Yeah, I think they call them rebates, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Right, so that was that question. There was another one which we'll answer in a little bit, which is about gadgets and what have you. So here we go.
Okay. Shall we
dive in?
Yeah, shall we dive in? Shall we do predictions?
Let's do predictions.
Yeah, so we obviously covered all the Nikon releases in part one. So that was released in 2021. So we covered all that and what happened during the year, et cetera, et cetera. So do you want to talk about what was the best product for you that were released last year, et cetera, et cetera? Or do you want
for me personally? Yeah. That's actually quite a nice question.
Well, let's say Nikon, and then for you personally,
I don't know.
That's not
Nikon.
involved Nikon, you know.
No, we all know what Nikon's best release was.
Yeah, no, Z9. That's
But in terms of what's actually available, that would be a slightly tricky one. I personally was very, very happy with the macro lenses. That's was true. My highlight. But I also love the little pancake lenses. But the 52.8 and the 105 were phenomenal. I wish that there were more 105s out in the world.
That's true. They're still out of stock.
One a month is what we get.
Wow.
Since release. So I was actually just writing to someone this morning.
Should they use like a fairy dust or something just to sprinkle on them to get that magic?
Harvest the fairy dust. Yeah. So that's a slightly painful one for us over here. But the macros were definitely my favorite.
All right. Let's talk about other photography brands.
Yeah.
Since we are obviously Nikon-oriented podcast and live stream. But is any other photographic brands that kind of the equipment that's excited you that came out? I mean, we don't really dive into those because we generally don't use other brands. But anything that you found interesting, any releases like, I don't know, Sony A1 or something? Or
I mean, I found the Sony A1 interesting just from the viewpoint of it came out, it was slightly delayed. And then when it came out, it kind of gave us an idea of what to expect with the Z9, although it was obviously completely different, but it was sort of a sign of things to come. I think for personal use, there wasn't anything non-Nikon. I was more excited about the new MacBook Pro M1 releases.
Yeah, I think that was a good release.
It was a highlight for me over anything photographic. But also, like, I find it interesting how different cameras, film cameras specifically, ebb and flow in popularity. So we saw quite a few celebrities using film cameras, like was it Zendaya using the Contax like G2? Yeah.
Well, fan. No, actually Kardashians I think start to the one of the I don't know their names. I just know Kardashians.
Just there was a Kardashian.
Yeah. So and I think T2 is now going over $1,000. I think it's like starts at 800 if you import it from Japan, and then in the UK it's like over 1,000, which is ridiculous prices for point and shoot cameras.
It is ridiculous. So I find that more interesting than anything else, but it also kind of brings those cameras to the spotlight and almost kind of gives them a new lease of life. I would like someone to do that with a Nikon F. I think with an original Nikon F, if we could get
you releasing a video on it.
Yeah, or like we could get Tom Holland to shoot, and then she could have the.
That's true.
Anyway, if you don't know who any of these people are, I apologize. Go see the new Spider-Man.
Just have a picture of Tom Holland and Zendaya holding the Nikon and Contax together.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. I agree with you on MacBooks because obviously we, for like last, 15 years, we had like Intel monopoly, you know, on the chips in process. And then we kind of have AMD with their Ryzen process, and in PC space, Ryzen process by AMD, they basically just dominating the space in terms of specifications and performance, but also this M1 processor, which is, you know, obviously developed by Apple, where we can see the results that, well, as a specification list, we can see and say, okay, maybe it's not like the top specifications, but the way the software is designed around it.
Yeah.
You know, the way the RAM is being used, where it's universal RAM,
Yes.
is completely different. So they say like 16 gig RAM is basically equivalent of 32 gig RAM on a PC, Windows PC. So
That's right.
this specific use is very interesting, and obviously the adoption was so huge, and that's again something that a lot of people say, well, how they can switch so quickly to M1 processors. But it seems like the support from developers, you know, from the manufacturers, we definitely can see that now those laptops, you know, even M1, the one for £1,000, the previous generation of M1 processors, they're really good value for money. And obviously the new MacBooks, they're beasts, you know. So, but talking about the cameras, I think for me personally, I think from third party, I really like the release of GFX 100S medium format Fuji. For me personally, I'm a resolution horse, so you know, I'm going to believe myself on this one. But you throw the resolution at me, and I'll take it. Yes.
Too late.
This is how we get 18 plus rating on this live stream.
That's right.
But for me, that was an interesting one because obviously at £5,500, 100 megapixel medium format camera for people who don't need speed of autofocus, who don't need frame rates. So looking at you, Z9. So you know, for studio guys, that's a brilliant camera. And in terms of just price point compared to something like Hasselblad, which is in the same space, or if you move further, Phase 1, it's a huge saving. So for me personally, I really like that release, and that's why I'm looking forward to Z8. Because I do need that resolution. I do need the, you know, this 80 or 100 megapixels. And I know a lot of people are going to say that they don't want that, but that's my personal choice.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm a studio guy. I like portraiture. I need this resolution, you know. So, and in terms of, I found this is really good because it just shows the kind of good value for money in terms of just resolution itself. So
yes, one of these days we'll go out and actually I'm going to let you loan it to me, and with supervision, and I'm going to try and use it and see what happens. Because it's something that's always kind of intrigued me, that digital, not medium format, but almost medium format.
It's not really true medium format though. That's true. You know, there's something like I'm really looking forward to 6 by like even 645 basically. There are sensors available. They cost a fortune, but I really want to see those coming into reasonable price point, and then potentially that would lead us to 6x6 and maybe 6x7 eventually. You know,
who knows? The technology, actually, the kind of stacked sensor technology that we started to see kind of emerge last year was very exciting. That was also another sign of things to come. I think we can safely sort of segue into cameras in a minute, but I will just address Chocolatite Lensman, which is a great handle, by the way. I was just thinking, you were saying how, you know, like MPS, I don't know whether you're UK based or US based. I know that the requirements are different in different countries. Definitely for camera ownership to be qualified for MPS, the main thing is that you're a professional photographer, but then yes, you do need to own some pro gear, and there's sort of minimum requirements on that. But we are going to talk about the non-pro cameras. I'm trying to make this not a Z9 centric live stream.
No, I think we're going to talk about Z9 for months to come, and then I think till June we're talking about Z9 specifically, and then hopefully from July we will talk about Z8. Hopefully,
yes. But on this live stream, we're going to talk about the things that we would like to see.
Okay, well, let's talk about Z8 first, because I'm sure that's the one that a lot of people are looking for, and then we're going to talk about the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
the Z8 is not really a thing. When we were at Photo London, Neil Freeman, who runs he's one of the Nikon school tutors, runs Nikon School along with Rishi, who a lot of you will know from his YouTube channel. And we kind of sort of slightly facetiously said, oh, you know, Neil, what about that Z8? And he said, you know, whenever people say Z8 to me, I say, no, that's a car. It's not a camera. It's not happening. He was pretty adamant that we weren't going to see a Z8. There isn't a Z8.
No, but it's going to come. It doesn't mean it's not coming.
Doesn't mean it's going to be called a Z8, though.
Well, yeah. I mean, but you look at Z8, Z9, and Z7. It's just naturally, there's a gap there.
But do you think they wouldn't make it? See, this is my thought. I thought that would be more logical to call it a Z7 Mark III. But you don't think so?
I don't think so, because I need a bigger body. I need a D850 sized body, or maybe slightly smaller than D850. Z7 is not an answer for that.
So you want something that's between the Z7 and the Z9?
Yes.
Because the Z9 is too big.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. So I need Z9 without the grip, without built-in grip.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of professional photographers would need that. That's the thing. So I do like Z6 and Z7 cameras, but for professional use, you need a little bit more real estate of the body. So the size becomes an issue there. So, I've seen a lot of pro guys using Z7 Mark II with a grip, exactly for that reason for commercial work.
Yeah.
So having something like Z8 where you can use without the grip when like let's say for general use, and then you can always attach the grip when you're shooting a lot of, let's say, portraiture or something like this. That's going to be quite useful. But as I mentioned before, I need a higher resolution. 45 is not good enough for me. And I know that a lot of people are going to say, but that's me. I don't have to be rational in what I say. So,
It doesn't have to be logical, right?
Exactly. So since I have a platform, I have my voice, I'm going to, I'm going to talk about my opinions. But for me, I would need resolution because, yes, I don't need 20 frames per second. Yeah. I need autofocus, yes, definitely, but I need to have high resolution possible. It doesn't matter, so give me 60 megapixels, I'll be happy. And then if you give me an option to, let's say, use a low resolution raw files, if I have to, let's say, for event work or something like this, then as an optional feature, I would take this, but I would like to have a high resolution for portrait work and for studio work, food photography, makeup photography. A lot of people, let's say we're talking about 105 micro, let's say, a lot of people use 105 macro for beauty shots.
Yeah.
Shot of the eye or something like this.
Yeah.
So imagine you can shoot potentially a portrait of a person and then do a high resolution crop of the face.
Yes, it's true.
Because you're waiting for your 105 macro, which hasn't arrived yet. There are benefits of resolution. A lot of people shoot at high resolution, downsample it to get extra sharpness as well. So there are lots of use for that. But again, if you spot some wildlife photography, you don't need that. 45 megapixels is fantastic. It's more than a lot of people need. So having the speed and 45 megapixels is already very good. But there are people like me who will take all the resolution they can get.
And you're not so bothered about the frames per second or the speed, because that's not what it's about.
Absolutely not, exactly. Because, I'm a portrait photographer. So all I need is just autofocus speed. So all I need is, let's say, if I need to use it for events, I've got my very good low light focusing and, heat rate effectively. Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. We've got quite a few comments in response to that, but maybe not in response directly. But for example, Roy was saying that the Z8 would be the replacement of the D850. I think that's kind of what we've been looking at,
That's exactly my point, yes.
Yeah, so Robert, hello Robert, says the D800, D810, D850 range should become the Z8, hoping for 100 megapixels. So here's another megapixel lover.
That's exactly my point. It's a D850 replacement. We need to have a body similar to the D850. While Z9 is supposed to be 20% smaller than D6, actually it doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't in the hand.
In the hand, it feels pretty much the same as D5 and D6 would feel like. So I want to have that camera that replicates the D850 in terms of the size. Make it 20% smaller. That's absolutely fine. It's still going to be bigger than Z6 and Z7.
Yeah, it's true. Jasperi, on the other hand, said Nikon can't really put the same specs of the Z9 into a smaller body. I mean, they can, but why would they? But lower resolution, higher frame rate, mini version might make more sense.
Well, why won't we then increase the resolution and lower the frame rate? Then you have different cameras, that aimed at different people.
It's very true.
I don't need it to be 3,000 pounds.
No.
Make it 4,000 pounds is fine, for me, so yeah. I'm already saving. So,
what about your large format camera? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, my Mi S7, if I sell my Mi S7, that should pay for at least, 2/3 of the Z8. But realistically speaking, yes, like Z8 doesn't need to be mini Z9. All it needs to have is autofocus system. That's all it needs to have.
Right.
Everything else could be different.
But here we go. So I have a counterpoint. What if, and this is just still based on Jasperi's comment, but what if Nikon did a little bit like they did with the D500, where the Z90 was the DX, and there's no Z90, please don't quote me on this.
No, we're going to talk about
this.
Yeah,
but a DX high frame rate, slightly lower resolution, because it's DX, obviously, camera as an alternative, because obviously Nikon are never going to be able to make a camera for every single photographer. You can't have like this photographer wants these specs and this photographer wants these specs, but they need to make something that will please enough people.
Well, yes and no. Okay, let's keep D850 because it kind of combines speed and resolution. But if you go to D810 and D5, we had fast low resolution camera for, let's say, reportage sports wildlife photographers. Yes, which was really good in low light.
And then we had a slightly slower high res.
No, but D5, that's
yes, yeah. No, but I'm talking about the D810.
Yeah, and D810 we had a higher res. So
yes.
we had 45 megapixels. No, 36. Is it 36 megapixels?
It was 36.
36 megapixels.
Yeah.
So we had high res camera, which had slow autofocus at the time, but also aimed at more kind of studio, commercial photographers, fashion photographers, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So why won't we have the same thing right now?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't need 20 megapixels at 20 frames per second at 100 megapixels. I don't need that technology.
Yeah.
Again, potentially maybe one thing they can reduce is 8K. For me personally, it's not the case, but I know that videographers among us, they will say they would need that. But I guess maybe we don't need 8K at 60 frames per second. We can potentially get 8K at 30 frames per second. I know that could be polarizing. But my point is, give me a slow camera, high resolution.
Yes.
And give me a fast camera with a low resolution, which we have now in Z9.
Yeah. So Lita Lee says, I want a baby Z9, like a D500Z version. So that it's interesting. I'm just
but that
literally
camera
reading it.
Would be called Z90.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be called Z8.
Yeah, exactly. And the Z8, I think, as you say, would be the D850 replacement. Obviously, this is just our wish list, really, of what we want Nikon to do. Yeah. I personally, I like my Z6 very much. I like the improvements in the Z6 too, but for me personally wasn't enough to change. The SD card slot would have been really helpful in the Z6, but I'm waiting for the next thing. I prefer 36 to 45 megapixels in a full frame camera, just because 45 is more than I need. But if there is a somewhere in between improvement between those two. I want kind of like a hybrid between the Z6 and Z7.
Well,
so can I have that?
Yeah, but then I think if you finish the conversation about Z8,
yes.
I think it makes sense what we said. But if you move on to Z6 and Z7 Mark III generation,
yes,
that's we'll start to see those improvements as you say. So let's say Z6 could become a mini Z9 in a way, not as good, not as fast, but still have, let's say, autofocus speed.
But do you think that they will change the sensor in the Z6 Mark III?
I think they have to.
Because it seems odd to, I can kind of understand one generation to the next, that's not an uncommon thing. Yeah. But another generation with a 24 megapixel sensor, we've done 24 megapixels.
Do we need more 24 megapixel sensors, even if they're new? That's the question I have for the chat here, because
good question.
We had this discussion where, remember I said that 24 megapixels, I think, is become too limited, too small.
Yes.
And that's just, again, my opinion. We had, again, a lot of people say, no, it's good enough, but would you buy a new camera with 24 megapixel sensor? Or would you prefer Z6 to have a higher resolution, something like 36 megapixels?
Yeah, I think that, for me, personally, and this is just my own personal take on it, but I would now, if I were upgrading my Z6, I would not upgrade it to another brand new 24 megapixel camera. I would want something with a little bit more resolution. Obviously, I went D850 and then I went backwards. I went from 45 to 24, and I still find 24 more than enough for what I need.
Yeah. I think it would make sense back in the day when D750 was out and they released D780.
Yeah.
Yes, you're updating the 24 megapixels, but it's slightly better sensor, etc., etc. So, but it was as well at the time it came out, 24 megapixels for a lot of people was good enough. So nowadays, a lot of people will think, and they would want to get slightly higher resolution, because again, everything gets faster, computers are getting faster, screens are getting more high resolution. So, so you want to get a little bit more resolution as well. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the Z6 Mark III, suppose, I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of what you would like. For my fellow Z6 users, what's your kind of take on what improvements would you like to see? Obviously, we'd all like faster autofocus, I think, low light performance. The Z6 is very good. The Z6 II didn't change that particularly. Would you say that we're going to get the Mark III generation of cameras this year? Would you expect that? Because we've kind of skipped a year, haven't we? Because the Z6 II and Z7 II came out in 2020. Yes. So it would be end of 2022 would technically be the time frame. Yes. However, yes. Do you think? Yes. Okay. Yes, so I'll twist it a little bit. Would you expect the Z9 technology go into those cameras so fast? No. So I think what they'll do is they'll skip. Then this is again, please don't quote me on this, but I think, and I'm willing to eat my words, that we will more likely see the baby Z9, whatever it is, at the end of this year. By baby Z9, do you mean DX Z9 or actually baby Z9? Because like full frame baby Z9, I don't think is going to happen. I don't think we will see D3, D700 releases ever again.
Right. You think it's going to be like way, way beyond that?
They showed themselves in the food. That's why we didn't see anything like this happening after that.
True.
Because D700 literally cannibalized the sales, just killed the sales of D3 at the time. So
it's true.
You know, D3 went straight to pros, and that's pretty much it. Everyone else bought D700 and eventually just, you know, put a grip on it for 9 frames per second.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you on that, actually. That makes a lot of sense. So the DX version, if they were going to release another camera this year, would be sensible. We are, us DX users, because I also use DX, are kind of lacking at that higher end. At the moment, the Z50 and the ZFC, while beautiful cameras, and we do have a ZFC review that I need to edit so that we can get that out on the channel. But the ZFC is a lovely camera, but for a serious sort of semi-professional, professional wildlife photographer who really takes advantage of that DX format, that doesn't want to spend $5,500 on a camera.
No, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I agree.
We're missing our Z90. We're missing the D500 sort of Z equivalent.
That's true, but we need a new sensor. We need higher res sensor because this 20.1 sensor has been out since D500.
Yeah.
And D500 came out when?
2017. 2017.
So it's been a while. So we need to see something else there. You know, obviously, make it stacked sensor.
Yeah.
You know, et cetera, you know, stick 1 billion points on it, you know, but definitely it needs to be there. But at the same time, if Z90 comes out, it looks to me it would be at 2K plus.
Yeah, I suppose it would be, which is expensive for a camera like that.
That makes it very niche camera as well. You know, there's use for it. It's the same as we talk about Z9. If you think about it, yes, a lot of people bought Z9 because obviously it's a groundbreaking camera. But from point of view, it was aimed at professional photographers who need speed. So Z90 would answer the same questions, but it would come at a premium. No compromise always comes at a premium. So you always pay extra for this, you know, 5% of performance, etc.
Yeah, it's true. It's very, very true. Ed said now that Instagram displays in 8K, we need more resolution. That's really good.
Actually, the resolution for Instagram, because I've looked up this morning and they say 5x4.
They compress everything to hell.
See, I haven't been doing my Instagram for years, and it's like New Year resolution. I'm like, okay, let's schedule 20 posts in a row. So I started to look at the Instagram resolution. Apparently, 5x4 crop is the height of 1,305 pixels, and I'm like, that's very low res.
Yeah, it is, and you can't
go higher.
No,
because it compresses it anyway.
Okay. Jerry said that you get faster and faster. You do talk faster and faster the more excited you get.
Excited, yes.
So, like, okay, and breathe.
I'm gonna launch my MC career soon.
Exactly.
As we said, weddings, bar mitzvahs, you name it.
That's right. Eminem hasn't got anything on you in terms of the speed. So Paul said if the Z6 replacement, like Z6 Mark III, comes out, we need higher resolution for sure. He said, I'd like 36 megapixels as a minimum new standard. He's also a D850 shooter and hasn't migrated to mirrorless yet. So
but the question is then, okay, if you get a higher resolution on Z6, where do we have Z7 at? Are we going to still have, they can put Z9 sensor on Z7 Mark III, but at the same time, Z7 Mark II, that sensor has better dynamic range on everything up to about 500 ISO. So if you've seen our podcast that we did, this week's podcast, we talked about the article, charts published by Photons, where they show the dynamic range of Z9. We compared it to Z7s and other brands as well. So technically, I wouldn't want then to have a lower dynamic range sensor on Z7.
No, it's true. Z7 is an odd one because I'm sure that there is a place for it, and it's all going to depend on price point as well.
So then we're going to get Z8 at something like 60, 80 megapixels, and then potentially we will have the same sensor in Z7 Mark III. Is that what you think?
No, I think that it would be the 45 to maybe 50.
That's the thing. That's why, I'm not sure when Z8 comes out, how it will put other cameras in the lineup into perspective, because
if it comes out, let's just put that stipulation.
Because I see almost like we got also Z5. So I think one camera out of those three, Z5, Z6, and Z7, will have to go. Because if Z6 gets higher resolution sensor, then it effectively starts to overlap with Z7
It does a bit, yeah. Kind of squeezes it.
Exactly. And then if you bump Z7, it will start to overlap with Z8.
Yes.
You see what I mean? So I feel like they would need to merge two cameras in one, and then we also always will have that Z5 as an entry level into full frame.
That's why I think that the Z7 Mark III would make more sense as that, but you want the physical bigger
I need the camera body.
Yeah.
Like I need to have a bigger body. Absolutely.
Okay, moving on, because we could probably talk about this for a full hour and we'd still be none the wiser. Then we were looking at, there's been plenty of rumors about the Z30. In fact, I think Tom Hogan wrote about it several times. And
He said it's ready.
It's ready to go, but obviously chip shortages, which are entirely out of everyone's control, sadly. And I mean, I've read so many articles on the subject of supply chain shortages. Obviously, that seems to be kind of what we're living and breathing at the moment. If you work in any industry, you will have noticed and been affected by it in some form. But there are just general shortages of lots of different things. Things that were in higher demand during the time that everyone was locked down are now in short supply, and manufacturers are playing catch up. So the Z30, I would love to see this coming year, for sure.
What do you think the price will be?
I hope it's going to be in the like $399 price mark. I reckon it's going to be more expensive to start off with, but because it's new technology. But that's really where it needs to be to encourage people into the market.
That's $399 with a lens. Yeah. Okay. So here's
no, not with the lens.
So that's without lens.
I would have said like $499 with a lens.
Okay.
With a little 16-50.
Okay. So if you look at Fuji lineup right now, so I'm at Camera Price Buster. It's a website that compares all the price in UK, so you can see what's the cheapest, let's say, item at the moment. So XT30, which would I consider the entry level camera into XF Fuji system.
Okay.
Body only is priced at 629. They have XT200.
What is the XT200?
From what I understand, it's got some sort of weird sensor. It's not like the whatever sensor.
But it's still APS-C.
It's still APS-C, but it's a very, very budget. So I don't expect that Z30 would be as on the low XT200. I think it would be at least on low XT30. So XT30 price in UK for body only is £629.
Right. Okay.
And with the lens, which is 15 to 45 lens, which would be probably 16 to 50 lens in our case, is £799.
Yeah.
So,
but you see, the ZFC is $899.
Yes.
So it wouldn't make sense. Roy's asking, why would Nikon need more DX cameras? There is a huge market for DX still, although obviously a lot of full frame users like to, once people have moved to full frame, they sort of like to forget that DX exists, but it's still a very important part of Nikon's lineup. And it's kind of like the gateway into shooting with more professional cameras. Most of the people that you talk to, if you speak to people outside of the photographic community, they have no concept of what a full frame camera is or can do or why they would want one.
Exactly. We are a very niche market, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All of us here, we are very niche compared to...
This is why we're a little community. I will say, little community, please do give us a thumbs up, because I've just noticed that we only have 70 likes. And it helps the channel so much. You have no idea how much the likes help. In fact, Len mentioned it earlier. Thank you very much for mentioning it. Please do give us that thumbs up. It would be massively appreciated. So Michael says, Constantine likes his camera's thick. Like a big camera. So there is a kind of professional wildlife photography market where DX, the crop sensor, having that crop sensor built into the camera, yes, arguably you can achieve that by cropping full frame sensors, but there's usually a perk to having that in camera. Like with the D500, just because that's the last pro body that we had of that type, it was taking all of the technology from the $5,500 flagship body, which was the D5, putting it in a smaller body at less than half the cost, and obviously it didn't have the full frame sensor, but it did so many things that the D5 could do that it was the automatic go-to for wildlife photographers. So we kind of, the Z cameras, we need a similar thing, really.
Yeah, But if you speak about the volumes, it would be Z30.
Yeah, so Z30 is the one that kind of would sell more, and then the let's call it Z90. Don't think it's going to be necessarily that.
Well, it's expensive item which we will sell to people who really need those features in DX format and don't want to spend $5,500 for Z9. So obviously there are people out there who need that. But then the question is, are we going to get Z70, which would sit somewhere in the middle between Z90? Well, I would say Z50 and Z90.
Yeah, that's an odd one. That's a tricky one. I don't know about that. I mean, maybe, but I think the Simon says I was your 70th like. Thank you, Simon, and thank you for everyone who's given us a thumbs up so far. It's very helpful. So I think Z30, look, if we would kind of rationalize the range, and I don't think that happens very often, but Z30 is your entry point.
Yeah.
Z50, ZFC are so similar in terms of specs, except the ZFC is kind of separate from the normal lineup because it's a retro styled camera. So,
but we would put them on the same level.
But they're basically, performance-wise, they're the same level.
Okay.
And then we want, I see what you're saying, like, would we have a Z70 before we jump up to the Z90?
Yeah, because I don't see the point of Z70. I think we would have Z90, so we got Z30, Z50/ZFC, and then Z90.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
That's all we need, really. And again, Z90 should be big.
Yes.
Because there's, you need something to grab on, on those cameras, because you're going to put a big lens on it.
Yeah, and you don't want a tiny camera do that with.
I mean, you like to use Z50 pretty much with everything. Like including 500 PF. But
I stick it on everything. I love that built-in crop factor though, and I also like the size of the Z50 as a portable camera when I'm not putting a 500 PF on it.
And also Z90 should have a grip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Exactly.
Optional.
Optional grip.
Yeah.
David says, rangefinder, please. I think David wasn't the only one who said they'd like a rangefinder style sort of. I mean, I'm hoping we see a ZF at some point, but I think it's going to be a while.
Yeah, imagine like S3, digital S3 OSP.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah. I mean, realistically speaking, I don't think it will happen, but it would be nice.
Yeah, it would for sure.
I mean, David mentions X Pro 2, and those are great cameras. I think, for people who need rangefinders on the budget without going into Leica territory, then something like X Pro 3 or X Pro 2, especially X Pro 3 with a, you can close the screen, so you just literally see like whatever film simulation you use.
Yeah, it's really cute.
So if you don't like, let's say, pixel peeping, while you're shooting, those are great cameras for this type of people. And obviously, again, it's quite niche group, but it's there.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, there is a market for it. The amount of people that we saw that said they wanted a ZF instead of a ZFC, so a full frame sort of retro styled camera. The demand is there, even if it's small, but I think it's probably bigger than we expect it to be.
Yeah.
A little bit like with the DF, really. I'd like to say thank you to David, who contributed to the Coffee Fund a little while back. So just joined. There was a bit of snow to deal with. So
thank you, David.
Thank you, David. And thank you, Brian, also for your contribution to the Coffee Fund. Very much appreciated. So now that's the cameras.
Yes.
Let's talk about lenses.
Okay, let's talk about lenses. So Nikon's supposed to release 30 lenses by the end of financial year of 2022, which is March.
Yeah, so we've not got much time, really.
Exactly. So now the current Nikon Z lineup, I've counted them, and there are 34 lenses.
In total, including the non-released ones.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So we're going to have 400mm released soon. So that's been on Nikon rumors. So obviously the development announcement happened last year. So it seems like it's going to be announced by the end of January, beginning of February.
They also did the development announcement of the 800, right?
Yeah, so that's also in the pipeline. And I assume that potentially may come out by the end of financial year, which is end of March.
Potentially, if they've done an announcement, I would assume that they would do that, actually. But then the question is, what are the other... How many lenses have we got? That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many did you say?
Well, 34 I've counted. That's
including
all lenses. So 34 less let's say yellow ones, which is already 29 to 27.
Okay, so basically we've got a choice of 3 lenses. So if one's going to be the 400mm, that's fairly certain. One's potentially going to be the 800mm.
Yeah, so we have 3 lenses that's supposed to come up.
Then what's the third one?
It's a good question.
400, supposedly, possibly 800. Maybe the 800 won't be for a while, but potentially that 400 is going to be expensive, Roy. I'm sure it is. The 200 to 600, Dave says, price like the old 200 to 500 would be great.
Yeah,
actually.
I agree.
It would be really fantastic to have that. I personally would like to see something that's not on the roadmap.
It's your price Tamron lens.
I want the 70 to 300.
You just walked into this one. You just walked into this one. Yeah. I set a trap.
Yes, you did. But no, 70 to 300 is actually a lens that I would really like in the Z lineup.
Yes, yeah.
You know, it needs to be done. Or 75 to 300.
That Tamron has. Or 70-200 f4 as well. So that could be, a pro but f4 lens, because obviously we've got 24-70 f4. Why not have 70-200 f4?
It's true, but it's not enough range for me. I love the 70 to 200 2.8, but I'd want it a little bit longer if I was going to do that. Michael and Aman, and I think also John, were all saying 85. Maybe that's going to be the third lens.
For me personally, I need 85 in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the 85 1.8. The 1.2 would be amazing. It'd probably be a really big lens. We don't know if it's 1.2 yet either. That's also just speculation.
Yeah. I like 1.8, but I still keep my 1.4G. So I haven't bought 1.8S lens. So
That's right.
I'll stick to the F-mount version.
I'll loan you mine and then you can do a review.
Well, I kind of took a few shots and I like it. I don't, sometimes you just look at the images and you just
don't fall in love with it.
You don't fall in love with it. It's good. It's clinical.
Yeah.
It's sharp. But I think just the G1, 1.4G just has such a nice bokeh that I just do find it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Me,
Yeah. Simon is actually a Canon user thinking of going back to Nikon or over to Nikon because of the Z9. Says, how would you compare the Canon L series lenses to the Z lenses? I don't know if anyone's had any experience with the L series lenses. I personally have never used one, so I couldn't tell you. But maybe someone helpful in our little community here might be able to give you some comparison, Simon, because we have a lot of very knowledgeable and experienced people joining us this afternoon.
That's true.
So please feel free to give your helpful advice in the comments. Dave and a couple of others have said 200 to 600 is next for me. I too would like to see the 200 to 600. The 200 to 500 is a great F-mount lens. It is. It's heavy. I also like the Sigma 150 to 600 just as a kind of similar range comparison. It's a little bit smaller and you do notice that weight difference when you're carrying it around. So if we could get a Z lens that was 200 to 600 but that slightly more compact size of the 150 to 600 Sigma at a similar cheap price point.
Well, that means we may jump to something like F8 on the longer end.
It's true.
I mean, ideally 6.3, but it looks like if they're gonna, if the weight is an issue, they need to reduce the aperture.
Yeah, that's very, very true. There's quite a few people saying maybe the 600 or a 70-200 f4.
Yeah.
So as I kind of slightly segued into it, we were going to talk about Tamron.
Oh yes.
And we might as well bring it up now. So obviously the 28 to 75 2.8, as we discussed on the podcast last year when it was first announced, is a Tamron design. And you said that Nikon had licensed 5 lenses.
So according to Tom Hogan, there are 5 licenses. So that they've licensed 5 lenses. That's what's rumored. So that's what he wrote in the article. So we tend to trust Tom Hogan, but
in Tom we trust.
In Tom we trust, absolutely. And in terms of this, then that means we may have another 4 surprise announcements that don't need to build up in terms of hype or anything. So
it's true. I mean, a lot of people, like Roy, we had this discussion about the Mark 1 version of the Tamron 28 to 70.
Slightly covers the corners.
Yeah.
So the more generic design is G1. They're conflicting information online because some people say that Mark II version is sharper than Mark I version, but from another point of view, all we see is that's actually the main difference is the softness in the corner.
Well, we're still there, so I don't know what happened.
Okay, so we probably disappeared for a couple of minutes. Hopefully not.
Not even a couple of minutes, probably about 3 seconds.
Oh, yeah,
but anyway.
Yeah.
Cool.
So conflicting information. Some people say that the Mark II version is sharper. Some people say that the main issue that's addressed in Mark II is the corners.
Yeah. So if they are gonna do four more, would it be 4 more Tamron lenses? Then Tamron apparently do a 75 to 300, don't they?
They do.
Yeah. So maybe it would be something like that. Maybe that would answer. But I don't know what in terms of performance, sort of. Without seeing the 28 to 75 and comparing it with the 24 to 70 f4, the 24 to 70 f2.8, the 24 120, the 24 to 200.
That's true.
2450, so many lenses in that range. We don't know what that's going to be like performing on a Z sensor because that's something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
So
there's no official information from Nikon what's involved, what's from Tamron comes. I mean, I assume it's a glass for sure, but the housing looks like it's manufactured by Nikon. If you look at weather sealants, there's more weather sealants on the Nikon version. I think it's 9 versus 6 compared to Tamron lens.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people said they will be manufactured at Tamron facility. It looks to me that if only lens design, so the glass comes from Tamron, then everything else, like motor and the housing, is designed by Nikon. Therefore, it will be assembled at Nikon factories. So, and obviously, autofocus protocols, etc., it should work with Nikon bodies. So it makes sense for me. For Nikon, I assume to assemble those lenses basically in-house, you know. So, but again, we don't have anything official by it. So I wish we would have more information. So by having, I guess, a lens in our hands and testing it, it should answer a lot more questions. Yeah,
Jaspreet, that should answer your question because I saw you asked it twice. But yeah, essentially, that's the information that we have, which is not official information. It's assuming that Nikon are putting their own parts in with the Tamron lens design and that they've just licensed the design itself. Jared said Tamron used to make a 28 to 300. That would be good on Z mount. That would be interesting because the 24 to 200 is a great performer. I don't personally see the need for it to be a 28 to 300.
For another 24-2 lens?
Yeah, I would like to not see any more lenses in that 24-28 range for a little while now. I'm over it.
I agree.
That's just
me.
Agree. Yeah. But I would like to see some longer telephotos, more general purpose longer telephotos. I'm not personally one to use something like a 400 prime or an 800 prime on my sort of casual weekend off.
Yeah, but those are coming. That's the good thing.
Yeah.
So I assume that, 100 to 400 is coming. So, I mean, that's been released. Then we have 400 supposedly coming soon.
Yeah.
Then we'll have 800 coming soon. So the longer end for pros is generally will be covered. Now we need this consumer long range. So we need consumer 1700 f4. We may potentially have a consumer 1700 2.8 by Tamron. So like similar to 28 to 75 2.8.
Oh, I see.
So you see what I mean? So if, let's say...
Like a non-S.
Non-S version, yeah.
That'd be interesting.
But then we also need a very consumer-oriented 70 to 300 lens with variable apertures.
Exactly. Jared, yes, we have one FM3A in stock as of yesterday, just came in and was fully serviced. I don't know whether it's still there. It might have been snapped up already. It's all on our website. Go and have a look. Speaking of, we are going to launch some special discounts and things for our lovely YouTube subscribers. So watch this space on that. We're in the process of working out what's going to happen over the next year and how we can kind of give more back to you guys. It's going to be very, very fun. But yes, our website has all the current stock on it. A few people are saying like a 200 prime. It's not rumored. It's not even vaguely, but there's no 300 prime on the roadmap either, is there?
No, so I think once they release the 400 and 800, then I guess we're going to see 600 first.
Yeah.
And then it would be either 300 or 500.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll see a 200. The 200 was an odd one because even in the F mount, it's never been one of their top selling telephoto lenses. It was too big and heavy for the kind of portrait lens that it really was.
It is a beautiful portrait lens.
Amazing quality lens, like absolutely cannot fault it. So yeah, we'll see. I think the 200 to 600 would be great. Yeah, personally.
And then eventually, hopefully, we will see some perspective control lenses. Eventually, but I don't think it's going to be this year.
No, there was a few, like, I think Jaspreet was also saying that a 16mm pancake would be nice. I mean, certainly smaller pancake lenses would be great. We do have a pancake on there somewhere, don't we?
Yes, it's an awkward one. It says 24DX. Okay, I can see that one, but then also 26mm.
Yeah, which is an odd one, because why would we have a 26mm when we've got a 28mm?
Let me just Google Tamron 26.
But it's a pancake lens or a muffin lens, as we fondly call them.
There's no Tamron 26 lens available.
Yeah. And then a few people are saying, are they going to be PF lenses? I mean, yes, hopefully, because we now see that the 300 PF and the 500 PF on the F mount are amazing designs, actually, and they're fantastic performers. So if they can manage to do that in the Z mount range, that will keep the system light. Obviously, the Z lineup was supposed to be a lightweight alternative. It's not really happening that way.
Yes
and no.
Yes and no. It seems like originally it was supposed to be in parallel to DSLRs, and it's evolved into being its own thing, replacing DSLRs, unfortunately. So, and that means you want to get the sharpest glass possible. So you don't want it just to be a lighter version, but actually in terms of optical quality be lower than DSLRs.
No,
so you want to beat that to obviously make sure that professionals will switch into the system eventually.
Exactly. Now, in terms of third-party brands actually making Z lenses, because that's a thing, it would be really, really, really good if Nikon would give over that licensing,
free reign to whoever wants it.
Yeah, or certainly to Tamron and Sigma, because obviously we've seen what Sigma can do with other mirrorless brands and with Leica and Sony and Fuji and stuff. So it would be fantastic if we could get a bunch of Sigma lenses, because they have them basically ready to go. They would just need to change the mounts.
It's an interesting one, because the points we see being represented that say, why won't Nikon make all the money before giving the license to anyone else? But it's a double-edged sword, because the more people buy into the system, the more lenses you want to sell, the more lenses available, the more people will buy that system. That's the reason why Sony had opened their protocols, pretty much as soon as they released the mirrors, because they didn't have enough lenses.
Yeah.
So I don't see the point of limiting the system. I think the more the merrier. And in terms of this, you have a different price entries for everyone, and it's also will sell the cameras.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So I personally, obviously Nikon knows better than us. Let's be honest. They obviously done some research.
Know what they can do.
Exactly. So, but in my humble opinion, so that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Quality Chap said, can they make a DX 2.8 Trinity set? They actually never did in the F mount range, so I don't think that they would in the Zs.
Yeah,
I think it's not, because the prices of the 2.8 DX lenses were always almost the same as the F mount. For example, the 17 to 55 2.8 DX, which is the exact equivalent of the 24 to 70 2.8, was almost the same price unless you bought one second hand. And it just doesn't, I think, financially make any sense.
That's the point. That's the point. Unfortunately, yes, like with those things, obviously as photographers, we won't have those options.
Yeah.
But realistically, in terms of they can project the amount of lenses they're going to sell, and they know that those lenses are going to be expensive and they're going to be very limited, because people having professional DX body, like let's say Z90, they may, especially on the longer end, prefer to get the full frame lenses.
Yeah.
To future-proof their system
more
than anything else. Or they may have Z9 and let's say Z90, and then they can use that lens on both cameras. For wide-angle side of things, it makes sense. So if you release something like 20 to 28 2.8,
yeah, they've got they do have a 12 to 28 or something.
1224 f4 they had on F-mount version.
No, but they have something on the roadmap, don't they?
Yeah, but there are no apertures available there. So
no.
It's 12 to 28, yes. But it could be variable aperture, it could be f4.
It's true.
If they would release 2.8, it would make sense. For anything longer than that, from mid-range to telephoto, we have full-frame equivalents, and for most people, I think just if they would look at quantities, how much they were going to sell, they're not going to sell as many of those in DX range.
Yeah, exactly. And as it is kind of pointed out, it's much, much better to have all these other brands, even if it seems like direct competition with Nikon, other brands able and capable of making lenses to get more people interested in the system, I think. Because if you're after, so many people are listing their kind of wish lists of lenses that they would like to see Nikon produce. For example, Sony do a 16 to 35, which is apparently very expensive, but is a kind of needed and wanted from people. There's obviously all the various different 72, 200s, 300s, etc.
But even DX 2.8 Trinity that we talked about, why not let's say Tamron or Sigma release this?
Yeah, I mean Sigma do a DX 18 to 35 1.8 in DSLR
for F mount version. Why not allow them to release that lens for Z mount?
Yeah.
then that way you don't need to spend your own money on research and development as well.
Very true. Very true. I know there's a lot of people who are not Sigma fans. Their philosophy has changed a lot recently since the son of the original founder of Sigma took over. So there is also there is a change. If you've had older experiences with the company, it's quite a different thing now. But it's also just good to keep our options open because yes, we're Nikon centric, but we do look at what other people are doing.
Yeah, it's good to have choice. It's good to have choice. There's no point of being limited to, let's say, 30 lenses. Why won't we have 100 lenses? And then you make a decision.
Yeah.
You don't need to buy that Tamron or Sigma lens. You can stick to Nikon. But then people on the budget, they may consider that. We have people, as we said, on different journeys of their lives. And their budget is very different. So why not to open the system for everyone? Yeah,
exactly. A couple of people mentioned, and Sky's just pointed this out, very surprised to see so few interested in a Z. I'm assuming that's a 6 or 7.2 firmware update. Yes, we are definitely hoping for those firmware updates. That's something that we predict will happen at some point this year.
Yeah, I think we kind of, I'm tired to talk about it every week. So let's just wait and see when it happens. As I said, they didn't say anything. There's nothing confirmed. From
just silence.
Yeah, from what we hear, something is happening in the space, but until it's released, it's pointless to talk about it.
Yeah.
What I don't like things on the internet when say, "Oh, they're not going to release this film where I'm going to switch to Sony." Please do. It's we go to the point where people just become ridiculous, and
And now the truth comes out. No,
but we should be a little bit more sensible.
Yeah.
We should be a little bit more sensible. People, commenting, in the comments saying that Z9 release was a joke, stuff like this. People got their cameras. You look at the amount of comments we get under our videos saying that they actually received their cameras.
Yeah,
it's very good. But we also need to realize the world we live right now, and
yes,
it's what we talk about right now is a first world problems. Just see what's happening in the world right now.
So true.
Not look at pandemics. Look at the uprising in other countries. No, this whole thing, let's turn it up to 11. It's just, you can't be like this for every day of your life.
No, completely. I actually had written because it was, we're blacked out again. What is going on with
we've
the
just
thing?
got redacted. So I think, so it's just, we went all political and... on us,
they were like, no, you can't bring peace to the world.
That's right.
How dare you talk about peace? All I was going to say was that in response to quite a lot of obviously direct emails, we get called and phoned on almost an hourly basis. In fact, pretty much an hourly basis, I get communications about the Z9. So in order to Jaspreet, so we need blackout free streaming, just like the Z9. I don't know what's going on today. Oh dear. I saw that talk about the Z9. But I actually wrote a blog post to try and explain what we've been encountering as a dealer based on this release. And I really hope that if anyone wants to read it, it's on our blog. Anyone who wonders whether or not there are Z9s out there in the world, there are, but they're really a few, very, very few. So I just think we need to be patient, as Con said. And before we get blacked out and redacted any further, maybe we should end this stream.
It's 1984 all over again. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Jan said, every time I go for a new cup of coffee, you black out. Yeah, don't go for coffee yet, Jan. Wait. Just wait. I have to thank Adam for your contribution to the Coffee Fund.
Thank you,
Adam. And Jean and also Randall. I think it's time for some coffee and a slice of birthday cake. Yeah,
I think so.
That's what it is. Were there any other questions? There was someone asked a great question earlier and I meant to write it down. I think it was. Did I put it in here? Did I put it in here? No. Anyway, it was right at the beginning. Sorry, I've forgotten who actually asked the question, but what is your favorite photography related, but not necessarily Nikon gadget? And I thought that was quite a cool question. I'd be interested to know what anyone else says.
I'm looking into acquiring a spot external light meter. So I've got a regular Sekonic, which is what they call just reflected or center weighted or average light meter. So but I am looking at the used Sekonic spot meters for my film photography.
Yes.
So that's what's grinds my gears.
That you're looking for one and you can't find one cheap enough.
Apparently, all Sekonic light meters, the expensive ones, are sold out everywhere.
Oh, that's outrageous.
Yeah, and it's actually quite good because I don't have the money to spend on it, but still, everywhere
But if one came up, you'd be like, oh no. Yeah, right. I mean, there is mine is non-technical. For Christmas, for myself, I got myself one of the new Peak design bags.
Which one?
I got the Everyday 20 litre.
Oh, the same as me.
In midnight. Of course, because everything I have is in blue.
It's a midnight blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I have a black one.
So you'll see it next time we do a walkabout. But anyway, unfortunately, it didn't arrive in time for Christmas, but it did arrive shortly afterwards. And that, for me, it's a beautiful bag. It will pretty much do everything I need it to when we're going out on our walkabout expeditions. Put my tripod in there. I'm very, very happy.
They're good bags.
Can you never have enough camera bags? Apparently not.
You just need a lot of storage space.
I know. It's getting a bit ridiculous now. I've got a lot of camera bags. Anyway, Terry said my best accessory is an old dust blower and a soft brush. Yeah, keep it simple. Yeah.
I have the one that has a little HEPA filter at the back. So apparently, you don't blow the dust out.
That's a clever.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Jeremy said a high power LED torch for light painting. I want to do more light painting. We did some on New Year's Eve.
It's pretty cool,
which was fun, but I definitely like to do more of that. I think that's it's quite niche. It takes quite a lot of practice to get it right because it can look rubbish.
Thank God for digital photography.
Exactly. Imagine doing that on film.
Yeah, on a large format. Yeah,
that would be an expensive experiment. Yeah. Tadia said a waterproof notepad for those outdoor moments. I've seen those stone notepads. They're made with stone paper, and it feels like normal paper, but you can get it wet, and it's anyway. So yeah,
wow,
yeah. I get adverts for really weird things on my Instagram.
What's the normal one, the notepad that everyone buys?
Moleskine.
I've
got lots of those.
Yeah,
not waterproof. And those are the only ones suggestions so far. So I think we're going to call it a wrap today before we black out any further.
That's true.
We will be back next week. Next week we have, what do we have?
Well, the podcast, as usual.
Yeah. So. Has a Nikon report. We will be doing some shoots. We're going to try and get some more editing done now that we're back proper and get some more videos out for you, and we'll be doing lots more tests on the things that we can get our hands on. I have to say thank you to Robin, who may or may not be watching, for the loan of his 24-120 f4, which we're going to put through its paces and then tell you all what we think about it. So that's it. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you everyone for your contributions to the Coffee Fund. I don't think I missed anyone. If I did, I'm really sorry, but it's not on my screen.
And do let us know.
Yes, definitely. Do let us know, and we will definitely acknowledge you. And we're going to go and have some birthday cake now. Yay! All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.